Rental arrears is a dirty word, but we're going to give you some great advice on short-term pain for long-term gain on getting around rental arrears.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Charlie.
Keeping out of this weather. I'm long and behold without Sam this morning, so it's just you and me, Mark.
Just you and me. But how's this winter? It's gone. Now the second day into autumn, and what happened to our summer? Sorry,
It's,
our winter's gone. Our summer's gone. Yeah, it feels like a winter though.
I'm looking out the window now. It's grey. It's raining sideways. It's yeah. Winter had something to prove this year, and they've come full force.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, rental arrears, guys and girls, this is something that as a tenant you can share that with people that are in hardship, people that are having a hard time paying their rent. It does happen, but there's good moves you can make if you're in rental arrears to get you through the pain that you're going through. And we understand as agents, as landlords, that it does happen with people, but there's habits that tenants form when they can't pay rent that actually bury them hard forever. They're marked, and there's good traits that you can have with your agent to work through your arrears. So we're going to go through that in a speedily fashion over the next couple of minutes for everyone.
100%. Now, this has to be my favorite topic to talk about with people. It's the phone call I receive the most, I'd say, when we've put a person in a property, we're starting to get that rent come in. And I don't think it's talked about enough, just what like not only the importance of keeping out of rental arrears, but what to do once you're in the pit, because it can feel like a sinking black hole very quickly.
It's a world of pain. It's your world coming in around you. So what are some of the tips that we can because obviously seeing thousands of tenants that we do, we've got a really, really good bar, a really, really good set of tools and experience that we can share with everyone here. What are some of those things that people watching that are tenants can go through short term to have long term victory when it comes to not falling into arrears or getting out of arrears?
For sure. Look, we'll touch on this in a bit, but I think the number one reason is understanding the importance of not being in rental arrears. Once you understand how serious this is and how it'll affect you down the line, moving properties, going from one agency to another, stuff like that, being approved for other properties. Once you understand how important it is, that even one day in arrears can affect you down the line. That's why we've got the title here: short-term pain, long-term gain. But if a tenant understands how important it is to have that rent every week, then they're doing their part to stay out of rental arrears. I'd have to say the second best.
So just on that, on Ledger, it's been a habit probably the last 5 years that agents have fallen into to ask other agents and other tenants for rental ledgers. It didn't happen a long time before. And a rental ledger is your entire record of your duration of your stay, every single payment. So as an example of that, if I've been a tenant for 48 months in a property and I've paid weekly or fortnightly, there's 48 or 24 payments that come in on the ledger, and you go boom, 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 boom. On that ledger, which is an internal ledger, which is the agency ledger, a tenant generally doesn't get that or see that unless they ask for it. But on that ledger, it actually has when you paid the weekly rent, if it was overdue by 1 day, 0 days, 10 days. So what actually happens is when your new agent asks you for a ledger that you're going into and says, oh, where are you renting? I'm renting through Novak. Can I see a ledger? And they get that ledger. it'll be as clear as day how many times you've fallen into arrears. Not a lot of tenants know that. You've really got to watch that, because it's probably the number one bad mark across your name is non-payment or late payment rent.
Exactly. So look, no one really cares if you left your room dirty throughout the tenancy. If you've got a mark against your name for non-payment of rent, that's going to absolutely cut your legs off. Yeah, for sure, Luke. That's exactly what we're going to talk about next. I'd say, like I was going to say before, the second best option, I'd say, once you start to fall into those rental arrears, whether it's willingly, whether it's unwillingly, is open a line of communication with your agent. Let them know exactly what's going on. Like you said there, Luke, as soon as people start to bury their heads in their sand, we think, or the agent, thinks they've just gone off the grid, they don't want to pay their rent, and they're not going to. So it's the easiest way to rub an agent the wrong way once you start to fall into those rental arrears, is to just go complete incognito mode and disappear off the face of the earth. So if you're opening that line of communication with your agent, you can let them into your personal situation. You can start to talk about a payment plan maybe, and you can start to talk about the different options you have going forward to make sure the rent's on time, it's paid up to date, and everything's all sweet.
And people shouldn't forget that the agent on the other line is spending the majority of their time with speaking to people like you who's late paying rent. So they actually develop really good solutions to help people. So even though they're the person saying pay your bloody rent, they're also the person that's speaking to the landlord, and they're also the person that's speaking to a bucket load of tenants out there about non-performing on rental payments. And what that means is they can have some answers for you. They can talk you through, but if they can't communicate with you, they can't help you and offer those solutions. And those solutions aren't often just one sentence or one comment. They're often a workable solution that requires active contact to step you through what to do.
100%. Look, I was speaking with a tenant throughout the week. Yeah, very good comment, Lisa. Look, if an ex-husband partner decides to stop paying rent, I'd say that the best way to get out of it, in my personal situation, is that it's maybe not a great relationship, and I'd say end the tenancy. Look for somewhere else to pay, where you're not covering the cost of both sides, and where you can, I guess, you might need to downgrade a bit, but you're definitely halving that rent in half, and you can make the rent on time, and you can make sure your ledger stays clean and your reputation as a tenant stays clean.
I guess that's why they're an ex-husband, Charlie. They're not good, but
exactly. So
also it's about communication. So it's communicating that to your landlord. You may find the landlord has a little bit more leeway than most. It's communicating that with the relevant government departments, and you may find there's some extra assistance for you. I think the worst case scenario is finding alternative accommodation. You may already be in the cheapest accommodation you can get, but I think that they come down on ex-husbands like an absolute ton of bricks when it comes to child support and stuff like that. But I guess jumping up and down like a jelly bean on the spot doesn't help. You've got to be talking with everyone out there to see. And not only that, you'll be surprised, family and friends, because you've got to, when going into rental arrears, it's enormously embarrassing. And the first thing to do is to bury your head. But I think when you're discussing this stuff with family and friends, often people can relate, and often people can talk about their situation when they saw that happen to a friend or it happened to themselves and what they did in that situation. So I do think, again, in summary, being an open book. If you're an ex-husband that's not paying rent, being an open book with the agent, reaching out to the relevant government departments, reporting it where it needs to be reported, and letting your friends and family know what position you're in, and then your olive branches will come out to help. And you can always say, no, I don't need your help, or yes, that's a great idea, I'll do that. But again, that open book thing is massive. Don't internalize it. Next one.
100%, 100%. Yeah, well, that's what we were gonna. I was just touching on before. Look, opening that line of communication with your agent, with your friends, with your family, and stuff like that. It led me to a conversation throughout the week that I've never had before. I was actually offering someone help on flatmates.com. They weren't putting up the rent each week. They had a spare bedroom, and the landlord had approved them for subletting a property. Now, of course, with the required, I guess, paperwork, stuff like that, we required them to have an application filled out on our end, not the flatmates.com end. But they were able to front up half their rent each week just by finding a flatmate, which is definitely quite easy. Sites like Facebook, flatmates.com, even realestate.com and domain and stuff like that, where you can find people who are actively searching for property, can just go all Gumtree, definitely so.
Yep.
Just putting an ad out online, just saying, look, looking for a flatmate. This is my property. Who's interested? And you'll be extremely surprised on the people who are also in the same boat.
And again, communicating with friends out there, because people know people the best. That's why I sort of like Facebook, because it's people. It's often people that you know, but it's a bit of a scary thought, sharing your apartment with someone else. But it could be the lesser of two evils, rather than moving out of the property and relocating, where you do it for a short term until you get over your bump of rental arrears. Charlie, what's the most common questions answers you get from tenants that are late on rent? So what would be your top three of excuses where you ring the guy and say, hey, your rent's late, what's the situation?
Yeah. Look, I'd say the most common excuse we get, or not excuse, but just answer we receive from tenants when I make that phone call, is just blatantly, I've forgotten to transfer. Now, in most circumstances, people take responsibility. They understand that maybe they forgot to put money in a specific account when it comes out every week, and then that payment is missed for the week. That's hands down the most common response we get. And in that circumstance, it's normally quite easy. We just make the payment back up again, and no arrears are forwarded. I
also think chip away at the mountain.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Look,
rental arrears can be a big number, but if you can regularly chip with small numbers, high frequency, it's a good idea.
100%. Definitely so. Well, the second excuse I think we find as an agency specifically, and this is probably something that's heard over the industry as a whole, is that, yes, I did pay my rent when in fact they didn't. Now, some people, like I was saying before, pay, like you were saying, sorry, Mark, pay weekly, pay fortnightly, pay monthly, comes out the exact same time every week. So when a payment's missed, when it's not gone through, the quickest response we get is, no, I did pay. I've been paying for the last 10 years. No, I did pay. And it's a bit of an awkward conversation when we've got to let them know that they haven't.
Yeah, got it. So I think we helped people today. I think we've helped. So we've talked about that short-term pain for long-term gain when it comes to rental arrears. In summary, high communication with your agent, with your landlord, with your friends and family is always going to help. It's a bit raw and a bit awkward to let everyone know, but it definitely helps the situation because the olive branch will come out. What else?
The importance of your ledger going forward. Look, if it's a case of, oh no, I'll pay tomorrow, like 1 or 2 days of arrears are fine, or just fronting your rent the day it's due. I can definitely tell you what my opinion is. Getting it in on the day it's due is so important to make sure your ledger's clean. You can then take that ledger, bring it to other agencies, say, look, I like this property. Look at my past ledger. I've never missed a payment. And that just puts your name to the top of the list.
And anything else before we go on short-term pain for long-term gain? I think frequency. I think to have lumpy rent for some people, as in paying monthly, it's quite hard for people to abstain and not spend and have the money at the end. sometimes paying weekly or even more regularly than that can help people get out of rental arrears or can help people stay in tune with their current rent.
Yeah, exactly so. It's just doing what you can, making sure the agent, the owner, is all aware of what's going on. If you do think you're going to slip into a few days of arrears, you'll be surprised at how compassionate people can be, like we were speaking before, and the help you can receive. Like, you'll never know if you bury your head in the sand, and it'll just be a bad situation altogether.
And a message out to landlords: you will not be able to get tenancy insurance if your tenant is in arrears already. So if you're to take out an insurance policy for tenant arrears or tenancy insurance, that policy needs to be taken out when the tenant's got a clean record.
Gotcha. Look, I think that's just about it.
That's it. Have a great day, bud.
Wonderful. You as well. Everyone stay